hidden wounds of hatred and fear, the suffering within, and grant us peace.
This poem is called You Are a Poet. You are a poet when I pass you on the sweet spring street. You, beautiful sons and daughters, a spring crop ready for a fleece of newborn wind that can neither deny rain, storm, or hordes of ginger root. You, worker in the fields with straw hat bowed low in the bearable heat. You, laborer known by few for the work you do, grinding the teeth of the world for the jaws to eat. You, laureled Christians, vinely and divinely bringing the kingdom of God to earth. You, young man, charming and shining with golden grease, thrown biblically onto your rough hands. You, single mother raising a child all alone on love, faith, powdered milk, and the Spirit's fruit. You, Myanmar, spiritual sisters, mountaineer, angels of the road, young Guatemalans, with hearts that radiate the rapturous fortresses. You, traveler destined for greatness. You, white man, black man, brown man, equal, the honor, nobility, love you have been refused. I pray the judge of justice hold you warm and close. You are a poet. When I pass you on the sweet spring street, I see you. Part of you closes off, part of you opens up to be known. Continents rip apart when you see I. Countries come to peace when you think of I. States form into one when you sing of I. Towns celebrate their jubilations when you hear of I. Cities parade their blue and yellow banners when you sing of I. You, all of you, you look at I wanting nothing but our love to be married. Let us in stallion binds make music to the vermouth daisy day and become one, ceremoniously at prayer on our knees and glowing alms. You are in the distillery, giving almonds to the poor, giving music to the women in need of affection, giving wisdom to the men string-bellied with children. You are in the soul, smoothing sweet fragrances on archangel shoulders, laboring smocked, walking in a mirage of endurance, struggling to hang up your shawl of blue dust and reflections. You are a poet, walking as close to God, no more can an inch cut through, lifted up before human death, decorated in the 8 lotus blooms of heaven, prowling the Jeremiah sailboat to sail the spiritual world, doing as once what feels pure and right, in 2 seconds change into a distant lonely prince or princess born to create a dungeon in Hopi sweetness, and bear the keys to the pretty petals of the windmill, to be at once open to the breath and sheltered, in August spread and seeded, and in spring weeded, reaped, touched, aged and aesthetic. Hairless wild onions in the forest centuries grows for your nourishment and sustainment ordained, signed with the hands of labor spining for the orchard. You are a poet, manufactured in supple ferment and glade and gale, licked by the eyeless cyclops, courted in Blake's angelic laurels, meekly inhabiting a wildflower of circumference, acting as 2 columns holding up the tomb of Jesus. You are a poet, laboring in the awe-striking audacity with of my behavior cursed with the mules, in stables born, led on missions into the coastal mountains to support the bags and tools of farmers, keeping vigilant watch for the angels of darkness. Forever to be a loyal servant for thy starving master in the ice combs, for in metamorphosis only suffering can save. The smokeless room yellow with wooden boots, the laborers are yelling and grunting smoke, the sons of the suns are shining, returning to the green flora when dead of thirst, the queen, magic forces and sword are finally yoked. You are a poet, a cart full of peaches, squashes and nectarines, oranges of life made at a sightless creation, being stepped on in the bending path to the wood, ice the creek, father of fruits, spitted tomboy seeds in a head, caught in the net of oysters. The moon roams with tree trunk legs walking. And you are a poet, mute, being made and scattered, handsome, daring to settle defeats. May this one light be fulfilling, you pray. May, oh may this one light be fulfilling, you pray. May this one death be peaceful, you pray. May my children be kind, you pray. May my purpose be showed, you pray. May my mother be healed, you pray. May my love return, you pray. You pray, you pray, you pray. The miraculous hard grease board boa tongue, off the answers of the lobelia and honeysuckle, hummingbird to horn pistol, the gut of grace digest, ovil trembling, daring and handsome legend flying to find one of the green singers with no net.
Thank you. Before you read it earlier on tonight, you said you had a poem. And I said to you, as long as it's not one line, I think we safely crossed that boundary. That was lovely. Yeah. Any response to this poem? Or to the poet?
Yeah, I hear you saying we're all poets.
Yes, that's the idea.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
That's a good imagery from that.
Mm.
So, tell us, poet, what is poetry?
Well, in this poem in particular, I would say it's found in all that is outside of myself, every one of y'all, everything that I see and experience. And it doesn't always have to be written down to be poetry, but it does have to be felt.
Right.
And it doesn't always have to be beautiful, but as long as it's honest and true.
And do you have poets that you look to for inspiration?
Yes.
Who would they be?
Rilke, for one,
Rainer Maria Rilke. Yeah.
and Lorca,
Mm-hmm.
Garcia Lorca, Bukowski, Charles Bukowski, and William Blake,
Right. And you mentioned Blake in your poem.
quoted in Blake's Angelic Laurels. Yeah.
There it is.
Everyone is, I feel.
Yeah.
Everyone has that divine state of
Mhm.
finding their own poetry
Right.
and being quoted in those laurels.
What about Whitman?
Yes, well, that was the meter that I was inspired by. If you recognize that, the you meter, he's calling out to America, calling out to people.
Yeah.
You're my people. You are this, and I see you,
Yeah.
and I'm one of you. Yes, so I'm glad you recognize it. He's a big inspiration in terms of American poetry,
Mm.
and Arthur Randall is a big one too as well.
What is the purpose of poetry?
To create new things for people, to make them feel something maybe they've never felt before, to give them awakening, to give them enlightenment, to let them know their suffering and their joy, to just let them know something they haven't found yet, but it's within them to know. And I feel poetry is either a key to unlock things, a door that's yet been opened, or it's really just a sense of adornment, that going out into this world here is something for you to have and wear for, that is significant to life's test, and this might help you endure a little bit.
Have you always had an inkling toward poetry?
Yes, until I found out my father was a poet, then it made sense. I didn't know that he wrote when he was younger,
Really?
and I'm just keeping it as a family tradition. Hopefully my sons and daughters will recognize that, recognize their own inkling towards it, and it won't fade with me.
Mhm.
But I wanted it to be more well known than in my father's kind of hiding it of it. You know, he wasn't.
Your father hid his poetry?
I didn't know he was until I was in my 20s that he ever wrote,
Wow.
and I only found out later. And I read it, and I teared up at some, and others I read, and he was writing when he was my age, so I could see some of the same thoughts being applied, just said differently. The same things he was going through. And he wrote to my mother poems when he was in the Navy and things like that. And
Mhm.
finally, she showed them to me just this past year, recently. The inkling came though when I was very much younger, and I needed support from people that felt things differently about the world.
And did you find that support?
I did.
Yeah.
In Jack Kerouac
Ah, yes.
and the Beats.
Yeah.
And I lived by City Lights in San Francisco. I was just around the block. So I would go and read all their poetry in the basement, and where Lawrence Ferngully and all them hung out. But poetry is becoming something much deeper to me these days, that almost like something I want to touch.
Mhm.
I don't want to be so far out of reach. I don't want to just write it. I want to live it. I want to be it. I want to hold it. I want to see it, just like someone would God.
Mhm. You have a great gift. Yeah. And thank you for sharing your poetry.
Thank you for listening, really.
Any closing thoughts before we close with a song? Thank you. When the night is falling and the moon shines softly, gentle light, you guide us, faithful friend, you love us. When the night is falling and the moon shines softly, gentle light, you guide us, faithful friend, you love us. When the night is falling and the moon shines softly, gentle light, you guide us, faithful friend, you love us. When the night is falling and the moon shines softly, gentle light, you guide us, faithful friend, you love us. At the close of this day, we give you thanks for your great love for all peoples everywhere, and for the gift of poetry that breaks open the heart. May we hear and feel and live the poetry of our lives. May it be so. Amen.
We read it the other day.
Yeah, it's well worth reading.
And I was reading it, Ravia, and her life story that you were telling me about yeah, I was, you told me that it was a story.
It's an unusual text.
Yeah.
Maybe one day yours will be published in a book.
Oh my goodness.